Urgent, Ukraine has managed to do it. A triumphant victory. Our forces have started to cut Crimea off from Russia. The powerful strikes have even alarmed the elite. Epic footage has surfaced online. The Ukrainian armed forces are reclaiming Pokrovsk. The best armored vehicles have taken up the task. The first results. Sumy region is being cleared of the enemy, and in Zaporizhzhia, what everyone has been waiting for so long has finally begun. Russia's autumn offensive is fading into oblivion. All this in our report. A hellish hotspot. Crimea is now under total attack. The occupiers are in panic. Strikes are coming from all sides. They're saving themselves however they can. Our forces are hitting with full force. Putin's key facilities have already been destroyed. Emergency orders to evacuate. Partisans have become more active. Sabotage after sabotage. Everyone's packed and ready to go. Russians have been driven out of the Black Sea. A high-value target is in the crosshairs. The Crimean bridge is starting to collapse. Details coming up in just a moment. Don't miss it.
A strike on the Crimean bridge. The destruction of Russian equipment in Crimea. Partisan sabotage on the occupied peninsula. Ukraine has intensified its strikes on Crimea, and reports of successful operations by various units are appearing almost every week. Probably the most significant event this year was the third strike on the Crimean bridge, a special operation that paradoxically was actually announced in advance. The commander of the Ukrainian Navy, Oleksiy Nezhpapa, even hinted back in March that God loves a trinity.
The Russians understand that we are actively discussing the third operation. There's a saying, God loves a trinity.
The strike took place in June, aiming to hit the bridge underwater. Explosives weighing 1,100 kilograms each were planted twice near the key supports. As a result, the underwater parts of the supports were damaged at the bottom level.
We approached from land, we approached across the water surface, and in 2025 we went in underwater. There were 2 strikes causing serious damage to the respective supports, the so-called BKM. And essentially the bridge is now operating under a 5-ton limit.
As a result, the Russians can no longer move heavy equipment across the bridge, which of course affects their activity. And this is already one of the special operations by the GUR in August. The agency shared the video a few days ago. During the raid, they destroyed a BL-680 type boat, a radar station, a Harpoon B, a Repa, and a Groza. And that's far from all that was destroyed last month. Equipment. In particular, our special services struck a Nebo SVU radar station, which costs about $100 million. They damaged a radar station. The Yenisei is actually one of the most valuable radar stations in the Russian arsenal. The S-400 Triumph, a Russian long and medium-range surface-to-air missile system, was also hit.
That is, damaging part or all of the S-400 system opens up opportunities for further strikes on other targets in Crimea. All these things, for example, are interconnected.
In addition to the military, the underground partisan movement is also active. They also do everything so that Russians feel every day that they are not in the occupied territories forever. The coordinator talks about one of the sabotage operations carried out last year.
It was a coordinated joint operation occurring at a time when our people were actively passing on important information. We tracked one of the convoys during the night and carefully led it from Simferopol through Jankoy, monitoring its progress. In the Kherson region, the threat was intercepted and completely destroyed. This represents a significant achievement, both for our movement and for Ukraine's defense forces as a whole. At this moment, our main focus remains on the important task of destroying relay stations.
And these are the results of this year's successful sabotage by the military partisan movement, also near the village of Uvarov. They destroyed a railway relay cabinet on the line that passes over the Crimean bridge. The global task of these joint operations, given the impossibility of liberating Crimea now, is to isolate it militarily, says the expert. Alexander Kara.
Of course, we don't have any right now. There is enough power and means to free him physically, but isolation is not just an actual creation. A major logistical and other problem in maintaining this occupation contingent, but it is also a political dilemma for Putin. And so, in my opinion, this is actually the card. Trump said we have no cards, but it turns out we have quite a rich hand.
At different levels, this is gradually succeeding. First of all, we managed to drive them out of the Black Sea.
That is, the waters of the Black Sea, as a result of our resistance, have been turned into a kind of adjacent gray zone. In other words, they can't go out because they'll be hit. Likewise, in principle, we also can't afford to go out into more distant zones because that's where Russian aviation operates. And so, in fact, this creates a kind of status quo.
And this is not just a security achievement, it's a matter of our economy functioning. This
makes it impossible to land a naval assault. That's one. Secondly, it prevents actions that could harm civilian shipping in the western part of the Black Sea. Just 2 years ago, or even a bit earlier, they would simply intercept a vessel, threaten it, intimidate it. At this point, that's impossible.
ultimately, anything that disrupts the enemy's logistics is also a form of isolation, our sources say.
And it forces the occupiers to spend additional resources as well as valuable time on repairing and restoring this damage to the infrastructure. And this also significantly delays these trains, causing further disruptions to their schedules and operations. In addition, we are actively carrying out sabotage of these railway tracks. This also forces the Russians to spend additional resources, and it also slows down their logistical operations.
Because of the effective operation, there are changes to schedules, supplies, and plans. All of this is precious time that helps save lives. The lives of our defenders and Ukrainian civilians, and overall, it affects the situation on the front line.
In addition, Ukraine is using Russia's need to defend Crimea to force it to constantly move important equipment here, including from other directions, the expert says. Mykola Beliskov.
We are inflicting damage. Russia has no other choice how to continue to use this equipment, the same radar stations. As a result, this is an opportunity for us to continue to knock out according to this system. At some point, we will reach the moment when it will be difficult for Russia to maintain radar coverage over Crimea, and we will take advantage of that.
But we must not underestimate the enemy. As of now, only part of the tasks have been accomplished, and the results achieved still need to be held.
Let's come back down to earth and be realistic. Superiority in the Black Sea must be achieved and maintained.
The Russians have turned Crimea into a powerful military base, and countering them is not easy.
They have brought in everything they possibly could. And in fact, they constantly maintain such a high level of air defense saturation along all the lines they have established there.
We can see that the area of Ukraine is very heavily protected by electronic warfare systems. It, meaning Tomosi, is probably the most protected of all the areas, actually, and perhaps even more protected than Ukraine in the frontline area.
And accomplishing this super task is only possible through joint efforts. Ola Chetailo, Faktisi TV, United News.
Right now, the real salvation of Pokrovsk is an armored monster blazing in the thick of battle. This machine is not just a piece of equipment, but a walking death sentence for enemy fortifications. With a single breakthrough salvo, it smashes armor. With the next, it demoralizes the enemy personnel. The Marder rages, the enemy tries to hide. Don't miss all the details about the standoff of the year coming up next.
This is the burning Donetsk region. The Pokrovsky direction is one of the hottest on the front line. What is it like to be in the most difficult sector on the front? Heavily. Russian troops are actively accumulating reserves and trying to break through to the southern outskirts. Pokrovskaya.
The enemy acts in a senseless manner. Local assaults occur constantly. They simply push through with little regard for their own safety. The infantry, they climb, and it feels like they are simply suicidal.
At first they throw in a small group of infantry, they fortify themselves there, and then gradually send in more in small groups to these fortified positions, and then these groups are spread out further.
Here the soldiers of the 25th Separate Airborne Sishislav Brigade are standing guard. Their job is to support our infantry.
As they say, the manual says we fire, the infantry disembarks, we cover them until they take the position, then we pack up and leave.
Helping to provide cover is the well-known German tracked infantry fighting vehicle, the Marder. It is used both to transport soldiers and to evacuate the wounded, and of course to destroy enemy personnel and lightly armored enemy vehicles. The Marder can protect the crew from bullets, 30mm shells, and small fragments. All thanks to its superior steel armor.
We use the Marder. If there's a heavy assault, you need support, and you can't do without it. Even in such a tough war as now, with drones, you can't do without it. It's very hard. The Marder has double armor, and right now that's a huge advantage for us.
This is an IFV produced by the German company Rheinmetall. There, the Marder is called the most successful piece of military equipment on the Russian-Ukrainian front.
The Marder has a big advantage, despite the fact that the vehicle is 50 years old. Now, everything in it is electronic. If something happens to it, as the guys say, Putin happens, you just press a button to completely shut off all the electronics, and the vehicle can still run, let's say, on its own resources.
The armored vehicle has significant advantages over its Soviet counterparts, not just in terms of armor, but also in its running gear.
There are also condensers. If the engine is already warmed up, it will also blow hot air as well, just like before. Well, let me put it this way. While you're driving, you go through 3 bottles. And even that's not enough, because you sweat so much, it's just pouring off you all the time. As soon as you arrive, you down 1.5 liters right away.
The vehicle is mobile and easy to operate, the soldiers say.
If you don't count the 3 crew members, the commander, the gunner, and the driver, there are 7 people behind us, as you can see. Here sits the commander of the assault group, along with 6 people, 3 on each side.
However, there are also threats to the German IFV at the front line. These are hostile
Semi-hulls are partially constructed hulls that are often used in shipbuilding and marine engineering. They serve as incomplete structures designed for testing new ideas or for specific applications where a full hull is not necessary. Everything is really taking off, and you need to trim the stupid thing.
The wars of the 25th century say that no matter how difficult it is, they will continue to liberate our Earth from the invaders. From Donetsk region, Darina Smolova, Alexander Koretsky. We are Ukraine. Marathon. The only news.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
On the Zaporizhzhia front, they are driving American armored vehicles in the hands of the Ukrainian armed forces. These are real tigers on the front line. They instantly rush to the very front through swarms of enemy drones. The Russians are powerless. Our troops keep advancing relentlessly and carry out extremely difficult tasks with excellence. This equipment has already made history. The occupiers are telling their generals that they are not ready to go up against it. But it's too late. It's in service and already ready to punish the enemy. You have to see it with your own eyes.
Repairing the Max Pro. It got hit in the side, the drive shaft came off there.
The soldiers call themselves pseudo-mechanics from Huliaipol. Since morning, they and his comrade have repaired the Max Pro armored personnel carrier damaged by the enemy on the front line last night. The armored 14-ton American vehicle. Our mechanics, with the help of grills, are adapting it to the modern realities of the Ukrainian front, where enemy drones swarm the sky.
We welded and re-welded all of this. 5 or 6, the digital shock absorbers held up, but the engine stayed intact. So we do this ourselves. Then we keep adding and sewing things on. The guys and I came up with ideas and improved it.
Arsev Dosanich, a driver from Rivne with the 65th Brigade, has been driving for only a few months at most. Inside, he shows the armored capsule for the crew and the hatch for the gunner with the large caliber Browning.
Sometimes you need to fire through the tree lines.
That comfortable driver's cabin with strong glass, which, however, can turn into this after a crash. And almost every trip involves at least a few attacks. Kamikaze.
He took the guys to the positions, picked up the guys. BC pickup. There were both drones and FPVs arriving. What saved it was that it was covered with grills.
Here, in this footage from the Mavic stream, Max is racing down a frontline road with Sanich at the wheel. He is attacked by an enemy FPV. Explosion. The APC keeps moving.
I keep going. The main thing is not to stop.
After arriving, let's just say this is one of the best sites you can hope for.
The deputy commander of the 65th, a Kharkiv native with the call sign Tuman, shows what even the most durable wheels turn into. Max Pro after an FPV attack or hitting a mine.
This is the spare, thanks to which the vehicle can still make it.
They brought the vehicle here at 10 o'clock. You arrived here, let's say I didn't get much sleep.
With red, sleep-deprived eyes, Andriy from Zhytomyr jokes in passing. He only became the driver of this Max a few days ago, and he already has several combat missions under his belt.
A couple of missions. It was fun, let's put it that way. First we hit a mine, then there was shelling, and the vehicle kept getting turned around.
The main thing in such a situation, Andriy assures, is to keep a cool head.
Control yourself, your emotions, keep a cool head, and don't let your emotions take over. You have to deliver the vehicle, you have to deliver the people.
The BTR and Max Pro have been operating in the 65th Brigade for several months now. The soldiers insist that right now they're probably the best way to reach the front line. It goes on combat duty immediately after repairs.
If they tell us, we'll go.
Now the soldiers of the 65th Separate Mechanized Brigade are raising money to purchase another piece of equipment indispensable in modern warfare, which also provides logistics for a ground drone. And they are asking everyone who cares to help out. Andriy Pochtiv, Artem Dezhenkov, Fakt TV, United News.
Sumy region is ablaze. The Ukrainian armed forces are breaking through. Our troops are literally tearing apart the enemy's defenses, and the Russians are choking in a cauldron of fiery battles. The 3-axis cannon burst right into the enemy's positions and incinerated absolutely everything. There is no chance of rescue. Ukrainian forces are pushing forward. The fiasco of the Russian army is reaching unprecedented proportions. More details about the situation on the front line. Don't miss what's next.
You can only get to the positions at night because during the day every vehicle is under the enemy's watchful eye. The concentration of drones here is off the charts. Once on site, we immediately take cover in the dugout. The soldiers have a free moment right now, so to speak, for household chores. There's plenty of combat work here every day because scouts spot many enemy targets, says the commander of the artillery unit with the call sign Chechen.
Just give them a little slack, and those cowards will crawl out.
Especially since the terrain here works in the enemy's favor. There are plenty of places to hide.
These are Sumy regions with forests. There used to be forests, real thick woods. Not like Kherson, where it's all steppe. There's only the main road. Same with Donbass. You can see everything there.
Serhiy has been in the military for half a year. He's originally from Kirovorad region. He used to be a farmer, but he had to switch from agricultural machinery to an artillery gun.
And the gun is excellent, just superb.
This is the M777 howitzer. People call it the 3-axis, American equipment that strikes fear into the enemy. After all, it fires far and accurately. With 155mm shells, the crew is always at combat readiness, and as soon as target coordinates come in, they adjust and finish off the enemy. Driving the enemy out of Sumy region is really difficult, says the chief of staff of one of the 225th battalions, with the call sign HOR.
There are a lot of them here. They are trained, motivated, and reinforcements arrive to them very quickly. And this reinforcement isn't just some conscripts they've gathered up, it's the best units being sent in as backup.
On this section of the front, the Russian army is once again using their usual meat assault tactics, but they also have significant technical support.
As for air support, there are all kinds of drones used for aerial reconnaissance, FPV drones and heavy drones. Here, the enemy is openly using guided aerial bombs and doesn't hold back at all. That is, they can identify one of our positions located through reconnaissance and then just drop 2 or 3 guided aerial bombs there, even though in reality there are only 2 or 3 people sitting there.
Since March of this year, when Russian troops crossed the Ukrainian border and entered the Sumy region, forces including this regiment have liberated villages such as Andriivka, Oleksivka and Kindrativka.
In the reports it says the settlement has been liberated, but this settlement was liberated with blood and unfortunately with the lives of our defenders, our soldiers, our warriors. That's why the counteroffensive begins immediately, but the results do not come right away. A counteroffensive is simply an action, but when people see that an area has been liberated, that's already a result. Of course, achieving results takes time.
In August, the defense forces cleared another 4 square kilometers in the Sumy region. And this is despite the fact that the enemy has concentrated its best units and equipment here. But our fighters also have something to respond with. From the Sumy region, Oleksiy Borovik, Alexander Oleksiy, we are Ukraine, Marathon, United News.
A fierce mutiny has begun in Putin's army. Everyone was waiting for this boiling point. Conscription into the army of killers has become unbearable. The autumn mobilization is intensifying. Russians are leaving the country en masse. No one is in a hurry to fight. The Kremlin was not prepared for this. Is everything really moving toward the end of the so-called special military operation? Don't miss out in the following report.
In Russia, draft notices are being issued online. No, don't think this is a story about the development of the occupying country. After all, in some Russian village, it's not just that they've never heard of the internet, they've probably never even heard of running water.
Announcing to everyone that Putin is afraid of mobilization because this might be, if not the only, then one of the very few things he fears. It's a reason that could make people take to the streets.
Online draft notices from the Kremlin. This is a story about how to mobilize more people and send them off to fight.
The issuance of electronic draft notices is about reducing the possibilities for legal challenges to conscription or mobilization, because before you had to deliver the draft notice directly into someone's hands. If the conscript did not receive the draft notice, it was possible to challenge the legality of such conscription. Now, it's enough just to send it to the government portal, and that will automatically mean the notice has been delivered.
They send invitations to join the occupier's army, regardless of whether the conscript is registered in the government services system or not. Ultimately, this becomes the conscript's own problem.
Draft notices are sent through the government portal. So if a person doesn't have an account on the government services portal, they won't receive the electronic notice either. Accordingly, there isn't really any data on how many people have created such accounts for military obligations. But it seems this method will be extremely useful for the military commissariats.
According to the law, an electronic summons is considered delivered 7 days after it is posted in the registry, and the recipient is automatically barred from leaving Russia. If the conscript fails to appear at the military enlistment office on the specified date, after 20 calendar days, additional restrictions are imposed on them. He is prohibited from obtaining a foreign passport, conducting real estate transactions, taking out loans, and registering as self-employed. An administrative fine may also be imposed on the draft dodger.
So, as we currently understand it, President Vladimir Putin is running out of what is often referred to as cannon fodder, which is why more and more new methods are increasingly being used to prevent people from escaping conscription.
In the summer, Russians began to receive mass notifications through government services about being added to the military register with electronic draft notices. In the mass mailing, those liable for military service were asked to log in and obtain a statement about their personal data. This is linked to the possible preparation of a database of conscripts ahead of the autumn.
State draft is essentially a method used to force a conscript to sign a formal contract, after which he officially becomes a contract soldier and can then be sent to participate in war. A lot because if the Russian army differs from the Soviet one, it's probably for the worse, since a person who ends up there has virtually no rights at all.
Putin ordered the creation of a unified digital registry of those liable for military service in Russia back in the first year of the so-called special military operation. Already in April 2023, the authorities decided to address the issue electronically. Electronic draft notices were equated with paper ones, and restrictions were imposed on citizens who evade mobilization. This is precisely what is linked to the mass exodus of Russians abroad, which, according to various estimates, amounts to up to 1 million people.
That's all from me for now. This was me, Darina Hutsakalo. Even more scorching news from the front in our next episode. And in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. See you soon!